This is Murder in the Morning with Tony Bruschi and Stacey Cole.
The gunman who shot one of the most powerful healthcare executives in America may now face the death penalty. Yes, Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old accused of murdering UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel last December, is now the target of a federal death penalty case. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has formally authorized federal prosecutors to pursue the death sentence, escalating the already high-stakes case into one of the most serious federal prosecutions in history. Thoughts on Mr. Super Murdio, brother, facing the death penalty?
I guess I can see it. I understand it, but he's got a very large population behind him, right or wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to throw out a lot of judgment here because, we've talked about it before. I've been very frustrated with my insurance plan, which happens to be through that company. Yeah. Very frustrated at how they approach things. And that's what he was going after, was how in the world do you treat people in a business where you're dealing with life or death situations? And that's what he was doing. And I'm not saying there's anything right about what he did. It was horrible. You shouldn't be killing people. But he brought up some really interesting points,
Well, I mean,
manifesto.
What's interesting about it is it got the conversation going further. Correct. And as much as morbid as it is, why it took this to get this conversation going, I don't know. I mean, the conversation's been going. It's just the healthcare companies have been going, la, 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 la. Yeah. Now it's like, oh, maybe we should pay a little bit of attention here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting that in New York, they don't have the death penalty.
Mm-hmm. No, not in the state they don't. I think your mic dropped out there.
I will plug in and
there you go. You're back. You're there. No, I don't know. Are you there?
I think so.
Okay, there you are.
Now I am.
Yeah, New York doesn't have the death penalty, but federally they do.
When somebody steps in. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, very much. He's currently facing both state and federal charges. So to understand that, it's basically exactly what it is. You have state charges, you have federal charges. Some can be overlapping, some can be for the same thing, some can be something more extreme. And just like with this, some can have completely different consequences than the state. Sometimes you have situations where one gets sentenced in one jurisdiction and then the other jurisdiction looks at that and goes, okay, it's going to be overlapping, or there's a lot of ways this could play out. But once you got the Fed saying, we think we'd like to kill you, they're going to try and kill you. And there's not a lot of leeway in this, especially when it's a federal case, because it's not necessarily up to a jury to determine if you're going to die or not. The state's already saying you get convicted over here, you're going to die. The state case being prosecuted in New York includes murder and terrorism charges, but those also come with maximum sentences of life in prison. New York doesn't have the death penalty. That's where the federal case steps in. Federal prosecutors have charged Mangione with murder through the use of a firearm, which is a capital eligible offense. According to Bondi, this wasn't just a murder, it was a public execution. Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of two young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America, she said in a statement. She cited the public nature of the killing, the alleged ideological motive, and the potential danger to others nearby as a key reason for pursuing the death penalty. The attack, of course, was chilling in its own precision. Just before dawn on December 4th, Thompson left his Midtown hotel and began walking towards the Hilton across the street where UnitedHealthcare was hosting its annual investor conference. He didn't make it far. Authorities say Mangione, wearing a mask and waiting to ambush him, approached and opened fire in the middle of Manhattan, with commuters and conference attendees all around. When investigators later received ammunition allegedly used in the shooting, they discovered something disturbing. Each bullet was etched with the words "deny, defend, and depose." Those phrases aren't random. They've been long used by critics of the insurance industry to describe how claims are delayed, disputed, and dismissed. Prosecutors say the shooting was more than just personal, it was political. Thompson wasn't just any executive. He had spent over 2 decades at the Minnetonka-based UnitedHealthcare, serving as CEO for more than 3 years. The company covers over 49 million Americans and brought in more than $281 billion in revenue last year.
Oh. Again, it's a business, but you're dealing with people's lives.
It shouldn't be. This should not be a business. This should be how healthcare should not be a for-profit system. But that's what we do here in America. If you're making $281 billion in revenue, I get you're a business and you're going to play by the rules of the business. But your business is also charged with taking care of people. And I know break even's not necessarily the motive of a business, but that's quite a profit. And quite a few people who didn't get the health care they needed because you took that revenue in. Quite a few people who were denied care or coverage or delayed, and then they just died. So
saves them money, doesn't it?
Saves a little bit of money. So I get it. I do get the outrage. Again, I don't want to live in the purge. I don't think anyone does. I mean,
no.
Me and my daughter were just walking around New York about a month prior to this happening in these very same areas. And, just to think that somebody, could be out, and I mean, anyone can do this. I mean, you go to the wrong parts of the city, you get shot too. But if you're out, and there's some areas where you just, you feel somewhat safe. And just to think that someone's going to go out there and do this, I mean, yeah, it's not okay. And the guy was not, in a business sense, did he represent the healthcare or that company? Yes, he was the CEO. But he's a human being, too. He is not a brand. So you did take the life of a father of 2 people that had worked his way up. He wasn't a CEO in the healthcare industry all of his life. CEOs don't tend to always stay in their same lane of business. They get hired on because they're good at what they do in terms of organizing the business and overseeing what they need to see. But do I understand the frustration? Yes. What would be a better option? I don't have the answer to that part. Your mic is messed up again. Yeah. Now you're normal.
I don't know. It's not great, but is it something?
We'll go with this.
Okay. So you made a very good point that it brought up the discussion. It opened it. It wasn't a great way to do it, but how else? That's a slippery slope. But how else could we get this discussion started?
I don't know, because apparently, the whole country freaking out and saying people are dying. This is not okay. You're denying, and nothing happens. I mean, this is a representation of the frustration that happens when you try to get these things legislated and they just always go in favor of the healthcare companies. When you complain and they're so powerful, they don't care what you say about them. They don't care that they have bad publicity online. They don't care that their name is dragged through the mud because they're powerful enough to not give a shit, because they're taking it all the way to the bank with their $281 billion in revenue. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong for a company to make money. We are a capitalist society. That is how our system works. But if you are in the business of helping to save people's lives by financial means, because that's exactly what insurance is, and you refuse to do it for thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people, and you have the choice, and you are the ones that are letting people die the ultimate way, the ultimate thing that's going to piss somebody off enough to go kill someone else. I'm surprised there hasn't been more of it.
That's a very good point. I mean, there's been a lot of pissed off people.
Yeah.
That every time a new drug comes out, there are pissed off people because insurance won't pay for it. Mm-hmm. Any new technique or science breakthrough that comes out, insurance won't pay for it for a long time. They wait. And I get it. Again, they're in the business of making money. But again, let's take a look at, for example, Ozempic or Wegovy.
Yeah.
Wegovy specifically. If
Yeah.
you've got somebody who is overweight and they've got the high blood pressure, they've been trying to get their weight down, it's not working for whatever reason, and they're developing all of these health problems. Yes, Wegovy is expensive. It's horrifically expensive per month.
Yeah.
But could that covering that medication bring down all of these other potential health problems that are starting to snowball with this person if we could get them to lose 15% of their weight?
Yeah. Well,
in the long run, will it cost less money for the insurance company? The answer is typically yes, but they won't do it.
and I think we're starting to see some movement on that in that area, in terms of them starting to cover those sort of things. But no, it's insane. I mean, I went and tried to get, I think it was Wegovy originally last year, and insurance just said no matter what, even though my doctor like brought in paperwork and it's like he like saying, he does qualify as being pre-diabetic, which should be enough to qualify you. But they still said nope. And if you want to buy it, like I had seen prices and people told me, well, it's going to be like, $500-600. You know how much a month? If I wanted, $1,700 a month. And even I said no. Like, no, that's nuts. That is nuts. So a lot of people are turning to compounding pharmacies and such online where they can do it for a fraction of the cost. Still not cheap. I think I pay roughly close to $500 a month for it. And I mean, and it's worked lovely. I've lost about 40 pounds, and I'm still working at it. But it's insane that you couldn't get that from your healthcare provider, given the benefits of what it would do for you long term. But then you don't have more sick people as well. There's a lot at play here, and it's not just the healthcare companies. It's the medical system. It's the hospitals.
Well, it's the drug companies. I understand they need to pay for the research, and they do deserve to make some money for the phenomenal research that they do and the breakthroughs. But at what point, I mean, should we be capping it at some point? Do you have to continually make that money 8 years after the drug's been out?
Well, in what world should a single surgery, no matter what it is, cost $500,000 for, I don't know, 12 hours, 13, 14, I don't care. I mean, whatever you're doing, where are those expenses going? What percentage of that $500,000, and I'm just throwing a random number out there, is, once you add up your expenses, once you add up what the doctor is making, what all the people in there are making, what drugs have been used, all this stuff, what world does it cost that much money for a single surgery? And how much is just going to pure profit?
Well, and again, going back to a surgery that I had in 2012, so 13 years ago, I looked at the itemized bill, and I had brought my own toothpaste because I was staying overnight. I was billed for a travel size Crest toothpaste, so little teeny tiny Crest. I was billed $27 for it.
Yeah, we need to start looking at these things too. And
I mean, that's highway robbery. I said I didn't even take the toothpaste. It was just itemized to my room because that's what they typically do. I never used it. I never opened it. I never took it home, but it was in my room, and it was counted as something that I was billed for. Well, $27.
And at the end of the day, you have collusion between the drug companies and the hospitals. And that's where it's basically, we're going to do this. And then you bill us this, and then the government will pay that, or we'll pay this. And then this is how we'll work it all out. And I mean, if you did this, if Crest and every toothpaste company went to every store that it's sold at, or let's just say they said, we're only going to sell it at Walgreens from now on. That's the only place you can buy toothpaste. And all of our brands have agreed it's going to be $50 a tube going forward. And you can't get toothpaste anywhere else. That would be blown up very quickly. The government will be shutting that down, saying you have a monopoly. This is not. But with healthcare, people's lives, they're like, nah.
We'll let it go.
I'll let it go. And then we'll all be freaked out when somebody finally gets mad enough and shoots somebody. It's like, that's why people are pissed here, because it's insane. And yes, someone did die, and I don't advocate for it, and I don't think it's a great thing that it happened. But no. I get it.
I understand it.
I don't
condone it, but I understand it.
Just because it's a hospital, just because it's a drug company, and it ends up killing people because they choose that, there's no difference in that. There's no difference between that and putting a hit out on someone.
Feels that way.
It's by lack of care, by omission, basically. It's guilt by omission. We're not going to take care of you, and then you're going to die. And they died. You can't go and say, well, the insurance company killed them. No, they died because of this ailment. Well, they couldn't get the care they needed for it because of you. Well, that's not that, and that's how it's worked forever in our country.
But they enter into a contract with this company with the hopes that things will be covered. I have insurance for my cats. I just took my cat in for a $363 lab test. That's going to be covered. I don't have to argue. It's just part of it. It's not this random, well, I hope they cover it. I know they will.
Yeah.
They've got a schedule of here's what's covered. And you can see they're very transparent.
Well, even then, sometimes, though, they're not. Yeah. Even when it's like, hey, and a lot of times they rely on you to go point out the errors. Like, we're going to make all these mistakes, and then we're going to bury you in these bills from all these different providers, and then we're going to ask you to figure out, where did we screw up? And if you can point it out to us, then we're going to send it to another panel of people, and then that board will decide whether or not you're right or wrong, meaning whether you can sue us or not. And if we realize you caught us, then we'll pay for it. If you didn't quite catch us, we're not going to pay for it. That's how it works. It
feels very intentional.
It's because it is.
I've often heard that, and I'm just throwing this blanket statement out there. I know it's not the case everywhere, but I heard somebody say that insurance companies are in the business to deny claims.
Yeah, they are. Why would that? That's exactly what they are. I mean, insurance can save lives, certainly, as well. But the fact that we even have this dynamic is what is nuts. That we have this third party, that it's a for-profit system that ultimately is the one that's going to determine whether you live or die. It is what it is. Welcome to America. Or as many people are heading out, like, I hope it is better somewhere else. Let me know where. It's this company, UnitedHealthcare, the largest provider of Medicare Advantage plans and manages healthcare for both public and private sectors. Thompson was a major figure in both and relied on and resented by millions. The murder, of course, rocked the business world, but the chaos didn't stop there. Back in Maple Grove, Minnesota, where Thompson lived with his wife and two sons, police responded to bomb threats at homes connected to the family within hours of his killing. Authorities believe the threats were hoaxes, but they sent a clear message: this wasn't over. Mangione fled New York after the shooting, kicking off a multi-state manhunt. It ended 5 days later in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested eating a hash brown at a McDonald's. Good job, Luigi. You're not very smart. Investigators say he was carrying a backpack with a gun matching the murder weapon and a notebook filled with writings critical of the health insurance industry. He was extradited to New York and has remained in custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn ever since. Since his arrest, Mangione has pled not guilty to all state charges. He has not yet been arraigned on the federal indictment, but he has agreed to preliminary hearings under the Speedy Trial Act, which is now set for April 18th. And the legal case is going to continue to play out, but it's obviously already sparked a lot of discussion, a lot of people being pissed off in the world. In California, a group has launched what's called the Luigi Mangione Initiative, a campaign aimed at banning so-called deny, defend tactics by insurers. The group condemns violence, but says the case has brought overdue attention to the insurance industry abuses. As for Mangione, he now stands at the center of this highly scrutinized federal death penalty case, and we'll see what exactly happens. You want to go after anybody? It's your political leaders. I'm not saying to go after anybody, but I'm saying if you want to get attention from somebody, if you want to go after them with information, those are the folks to talk to, because they're the ones that set the rules, and those are the ones who've been playing by it because they get paid off. That's why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
The insurance companies are going to play by the rules that are set for them. And the rules currently allow them to screw you over. So you better pay attention to who you're voting for. Because a lot of you who think you're voting for people that are going to help you and be there for you, they're not.
They want to make money.
They want to make money. The one that leans super heavy into, oh, God this and God that, and we care about. They're the ones who are hand in hand with the healthcare industry. They're the ones that are helping to deny all this shit for you. So where do you need to go to make changes? You can make all the petitions in the world. You can make all the groups, the organizations, and we're going to social justice warrior this way and that way. Nothing's going to fucking change until you put the right people into power. So at the end of the day, whose fault is it? Well, we're the ones who elect our officials, and it's only as good as the people that we elect. And ultimately, it comes up to the people being smart enough to elect the right people that will represent them for the needs that they have. So America's not too good at that. We're not very good at looking out for what our interests are and picking the people that are truly going to represent them. We're very, squirrel? Oh, the squirrel looks shiny. Let's go with the squirrel. The squirrel's going to eat you in your sleep. Make better choices.
Killer squirrels.
Get better results. That's really what it comes down to.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. She was the perfect wife, always smiling, always supportive. A pillar of the community, beloved by friends, adored by family, and secretly researching undetectable poisons in her spare time. Maybe it was the way he chewed. Maybe she just got bored. Or maybe, just maybe, she had been planning this since the honeymoon. But if he had just paid attention, if he had just known what to look for, if he had only subscribed to True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and learned the red flags, he could have heard every episode of Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, ad-free, and before everyone else. He could have seen it coming. Instead, he's 6 feet under, and she's shopping for husband number 2. Don't be like him. Subscribe now to True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts.